Hi, I'm William Malik, and I'm here with our bit of security for July 21st, 2026. And today's topic is time. You remember the Y2K bug? It cost hundreds of millions of dollars to remediate, and the remediation was largely successful, which is why some folks thinks that nothing actually happened. The fact that nothing much happened is actually a huge success. I mean, with the exception of, say, the nation of Ghana, which lost power for a day, or the fact that a couple of nuclear power plants in Japan lost their safety systems for a few hours, and the fact that a few hundred websites didn't respond correctly when people tried to register or log in, it passed successfully. We're now looking at a much bigger problem. It's like Y2K. The Y2K problem was easy to solve because programming languages at that time were quite unsophisticated. A date field was just 4 characters long. In every case, the first 2 digits were always 19. When I worked as a programmer, the insurance company that I had about 26 dates in every insurance policy record. That meant each record took 52 characters of space to store the number 19. And if you had 100,000 of those policies, that meant 5 meg of storage. In those days, a meg of storage cost 5 million bucks. So spending $25 million to store the number 19 over and over again seemed a really bad idea. And by the way, in the 1970s, when this was going on, none of the programs we were writing would be around in 10 years, much less a quarter of a century. So we just dropped the first 2 digits. Fixing the problem simply meant finding all declared date data types and making them 4 digits long. You recompile a program, you're off. Nation of India provided the manpower for a lot of that at 1/10 the cost of a skilled US programmer at that time. And some far-reaching companies went beyond. They took an opportunity there to redesign their code. Delta Airlines famously re-architected their entire code base using contemporary design principles, which gave them a tremendous competitive advantage. They could implement extensions and changes with far less turmoil and far fewer errors than their competitor could. Unfortunately, the problem today is more complicated. We know how to fix it conceptually, but it's going to be a lot of work. So I'm going to read a bit from a passage that I got from Google. The time limit expiring in 2038 is known as the Y2038 problem, often called Y2K38 or the epocalypse. It's a digital limitation where standard timekeeping clocks on older computer systems will hit capacity. They will officially run out on January 19th, 2038 at exactly 3:14:07 Eastern Universal Time. Here's the problem. Older systems track time by counting the number of seconds since midnight on January 1, 1970. That's the Unix epoch. And by the way, Unix begat Linux, and so Android and all the rest of them have it. This time representation is stored as a 32-digit signed number. The maximum number you can store in a 32-bit signed number is 2,147,000,000, etc. What happens at 1 second after that, at 3:14 and 08, the integer overflows. And what that means, because it's a signed number, is the computer will interpret that as a massive negative number, which means instead of thinking it's January 2038, it'll now think it's December 31 of the year 1901. The problem, though, isn't the data that a person loads into the computer. The problem is the software service that provided the date and how that date is used in the program. Solving the problem at the source, meaning replacing that 32-bit number with a 64-bit number, doesn't really fix it. The real issue isn't the number. The real issue is the program that chooses to use it. If I hand you a very big number, unless your code changes to be able to accept that very big number, you're still going to only read the 32-bit part at the end, and you'll still have the same problem. So put it differently, every program needs to find and fix how it handles the date that it gets by calling a time service. AI cannot do this. It requires smart people who understand the code and design it, fix it, test it, and roll it out across all existing deployed environments. There's no mechanism to find out which programs might have copied a time source into their code. If I borrow a program from you, there's nothing you have that says, oh, by the way, Mr. Malik borrowed that program. There's no standard release mechanism. There's no patch Tuesday to roll out fixes. The code may live inside an Internet of Things product, like a smog sensor in a car, or a building air conditioning system, or a fire suppression system in a coal mine, or a docking clamp on a ship in a port. Any system that needs to know either what time it is or how much time has passed since a certain event happened may carry the risk. We need to find people who understand various Linux and Unix systems, the many languages that were used there, and the kinds of software that might need to know what time it is or how long it's been since something happened. And oh, by the way, there's another problem that hits in 2036. The year 2036 problem is a software bug associated with the network time protocol. What happens on February 7th of 2036 at 6:28:16 Universal Time, the 32-bit timestamp used by NTP versions will overflow. Now, what's the difference here? The NTP system uses a 32-bit unsigned integer, which means it can count up to 4 gig, 4 billion. But its zero is January 1 of 1900. So when it hits, instead of thinking that it's February 7th of 2036, it'll suddenly say, oh, it's January 1, 1900. The clock rolls over, and network-reliant devices and software will experience time sync failures. Accurate time is required for security certificates. Think about signing on with a time with a say the Google application verification or the Microsoft authenticator or the RSA code. The clock won't be telling you the right time, so the clock will have expired. Network operations, logs for databases. Any systems will experience widespread glitches. So there are two different bugs. One hits in 2036, one hits in 2038. Both are really tough problems. We have to figure out what programs acquire, store, use, and process these various time references. Each program is different. In 1936, the British politician Sir Austen Chamberlain quoted what he said was an ancient Chinese proverb, may you live in interesting times. No such proverb exists. Unfortunately, we live in very interesting times. Are you up for it? That's our bit of security for July 21, 2026. Be safe.